My reading journey started with crime books, and me and crime have been best friends ever since. Not that crime.
So here are my top 5 crime book recs that you should not miss out on. I am so excited for this video because how is it that I have made so many book videos but I haven't made a dedicated book recommendation video for crime books? Like, this is how my reading journey started. I do not understand why I haven't spoken about this yet, but here I am. So the first book I'm going to be talking about, my first book recommendation, probably the best, is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. If you are an Agatha Christie fan, you probably know this book. If you are a serious crime fan, you probably know this book and I love it. If you are not, I'm here to convert you, so don't worry. So our main character, Roger Ackroyd's wife, died. She killed herself, but before she was ever married to Roger Ackroyd, she had a husband and she poisoned him, and then later on she killed herself while she was married to Roger Ackroyd. But poor old Roger wants to find out why his wife died. Did she even kill herself? Was someone blackmailing her? What was happening and why did she go away? However, as the title suggests, it is the murder of Roger Ackroyd, so he soon also meets his wife in heaven or hell. I have chills thinking about this book. Read the book and then you'll understand why this telephone is here. No other Agatha Christie book has ever shocked me the way this book shocked me, and I'm serious. I actually read this book twice just because it was that good. First of all, any Agatha Christie book is the perfect length of pages to read because I look at it. It is like the size of a romance book, maybe even thinner. This is written really well. It will not keep you astray from the book for even 2 seconds. It is written that well. And as someone said, makes breathless reading from first to the unexpected last. Honestly, yes, unexpected. Also, this book is so good. My film teacher discussed this book with me in film school. She was like, have you read this book? Like, she asked everyone. I was like, I was the only one who read it. But point being, it is that good. It has reached professors all around the world. It is iconic. It is a phenomenon in its own genre. I think if Agatha Christie were alive herself, she would be so proud. I think she is proud. I think she knew what she was doing, and she did it. Honestly, I don't know how else to describe this book because just read it. And also, this is from the series of Poirot, so her fictional detective that she writes about. And he is the person solving this case, and any book with him in it is a treat. She has quite a few characters that she writes about, and he is one of my favorites, and I will forever read all his books. And there's so many books with him in it, so I might have to go and buy myself a Poirot book because I miss it. If you are someone who wants a whodunit book, a book where you, along with the detective, are finding out what happened, and you just want to be in that old British era, yeah, read this book. Also, if you are someone who has read The Housemaid or really aggressive books like that and want just a mellow down of like the crime version of that, this is the book for you. Okay, let's move on to the next book. The next book is The Girl Before. So this book is about Jane, who stumbles upon a great offer on a house which basically looks like this. It is expensive looking, minimalistic. It is basically the house of anyone's dreams. However, she finds it at a really good deal. But the reason she finds it at such a really good deal, what a sentence, such a good deal, is because there are conditions for staying at this house. Only the person who agrees to follow these rules is allowed to stay in this house. And she's like, you know what? This beautiful house I'm getting at such a cheap price. I'm gonna agree, no matter how creepy the rules. However, as she's living in that house, she finds out something about a previous tenant called Emma who died in that house. And now she is trying to find out who she was, what happened to her, how did she die, why did she die, and yeah. The house is basically haunting her and she still decides to stay, apparently. Genuinely eerie, beautifully handled, the pages fly, and truly they do. Another book I read twice. I think truly you can tell that these are my favorite books because I've read this multiple times. This book has been interesting to me from the first page. It is written so well, the world is described so well. For a crime/mystery book, this is written really well. This book has romance, it has mystery, it has crime, it has a thriller vibe. And also there are 2 vibes. And also there are 2 perspectives in this book. So you have Jane and you also have Emma, the girl who died. Can you imagine? You have the POV of the girl who It is so good. It is literally so good because both their lives run parallel to each other, and then to have the POV shift, something happens and then the chapter's like, actually we're gonna shift POV and now it's gonna be Emma who speaks. So frustrating, but ultimately written really well. Apparently this is a debut an outstanding debut that is more than a match for How Is This a Debut Novel? So good. I literally don't know what else to say. Also, there is a show on this book, so once you finish it, you can watch it. And honestly, I have never watched, well, I maybe. The shows that was made from this book is one of the best adaptations I have ever seen. The house was how I imagined it, maybe a bit more eerie than I imagined it. It was great nonetheless. The actors, the acting, just the whole vibe of the show. Also, there's multiple episodes, so you can really relive this book multiple times. Read it. On to the next book. So the next one is a YA book, Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This has been the TikTok sensation, that sensation ever. So our main character is Pip. She lives in a small little quaint town and she's enjoying her life, but she's assigned to do a task for class where she has to do some research, and she decides to do research on a case that happened previously in her town where a guy named Sal was accused of murdering a girl. Later on, eventually Sal also died. And Pip thinks that Sal is not the person who killed that girl, whose name is Andy Bell. And so now through this project, Pip is on the hunt to find out who really killed that girl and to prove Sal's innocence. It has reports. It has physical paper reports of what is happening in the book. That is not all. There's multiple. I always love an element like that in books. So well, instantly from the first page, you will be like, I want to continue reading it because it starts so well. If you're in the mood to feel like a detective, read this book because you are literally flipping through the files, flipping through recordings, recording a podcast with suspects and just interviewing people and collecting this evidence. I love it. There's also hand-drawn notes like of Pip, which I love. Absolutely a banger of a book. I finished this very quickly. I read this at the start of my reading career, my reading journey, and this was the very first book that I finished maybe in 2 to 3 days. It was that good. There are quite a few characters in this, so you might just get a bit confused at times, but trust me, you will be good. They repeat the characters again and again. You will understand who is who. So the reason I really like this book was for those fun elements, the way it was written. I just love Pip and Ravi's communication, just their team overall in this book. Ravi is the male character. You will get to know him soon. It's okay, don't fret. And I just love seeing her build up her relationship with Ravi, with other kids in the block. It's literally like a wholesome, cozy book, but also not cozy because a lot of murders are happening and she wants to find out who is doing it. Also, she comes across scary people and I do get scared, but it still is like giving cozy vibes in some way. And lots of plot holes, you will think something happened and that is how it's supposed to go, but it will be like, no, the book doesn't end there. There's more. More people are gonna get lost, more people are gonna die, and it's not that simple. Getting out of a reading slump? Read this book. Looking for a fun, quick read in the crime genre? Read this book. Want to feel like a detective? Read this book. Oh, and did I forget to mention this is a series. This is the first book. There's 2 more books and all of the books are worthwhile. Literally all 5 stars. So the next one is Monogram Murders, and this is another Agatha Christie book. Can you tell I'm on a roll here? And now this one, I will read you from the back because I did read this a long time ago when I was a wee little child. However, I do remember how I felt. So that is why I'm including it in this video. So, Hercule Poirot's quiet supper is interrupted when a young woman confides to him that she is about to be murdered. She is terrified, but begs Poirot not to find and punish her killer. Once she is dead, she insists justice will have been done. Later that night, Poirot learns that 3 guests of the fashionable Bloxham Hotel have been murdered. A cuffling placed in each one's mouth. That's very interesting. While Poirot struggles to connect the bizarre pieces of the puzzle, the murderer prepares a hotel room for a 4th victim. Instantly remember everything that's happened. This like another plot hole filled book. Again, Poirot is in it. I love it. And Poirot always has a partner whenever he's finding out a case, searching for the killer. And I love his dynamic with his partner in this. So it helps keep a bit of the humor in the crime, you know? Even though there is no humor to be had. Just understand. Oh, also, this is not written by Agatha Christie. This is written by Sophie Hannah, who basically has written a few books with Poirot in it. With permission, of course. Any of the books with Hercule Poirot in it are just fast-paced. They are written very well. I love his character overall. Him being a very proper man, him wanting his plates a certain way, his grey cells working. It's just a great personality to have. It is so interesting to get to know the detective in depth, which I don't think you usually get to do. From this book alone, you get to know so much about him and he will turn into your favorite detective. Sherlock Holmes, who? And even after all those years, maybe 10 plus years, I still remember how this book started. And it gave me cozy vibes and I instantly loved this book. It is very much written to Agatha Christie style. It is still gripping. It is still the essence of the detective and just the stories is in it. Honestly, it may be a little bit more punch-packed than the original. And honestly, you will love this book. You know, this book takes place in a hotel. It is all that red that you imagine, somewhat like The Shining, but not so creepy. The Shining Yeah, The Shining was in a hotel exactly just like that, but less creepy. I mean, there are murders. But let's move on to the next one. Next one is, believe it or not, another book from Agatha Christie, and that is Ordeal by Innocence. So basically, in this house, first of all, as you can see, there all these characters, yes, all of them are in this book, so hold on tight. It will take 2 minutes of your brain cells to understand what is happening. So Jacko was sent to jail because he killed his mother with a poker to her head. So his mother's dead, and so now he's in jail for killing his mother. However, he dies in jail. Nobody feels sad because obviously he's a killer. 2 years later, doctors show up to the house of this family and tell them that Jacko is actually innocent. And now everyone in the house is horrified. Like, innocent? Honey, what does that mean? The killer, she's here? He's here? Yeah. Again, one of my favorite books from Agatha Christie, or in general. So basically, I read this book, I watched the plays of this book, and I also watched the show of this book. And if I'm not wrong, there are 2 versions of this show. There's the older versions, and there's the newer versions with these characters in it. And there's just so much content, just read it. A man died for a crime he didn't commit, and the murderer is still among them. So all of them are suspects, and one of them killed the mother. So now the poor mother is dead. So is this poor guy. And the killer is still alive. Enjoy this book to the T. Another book that till the end you will be like, oh, what is happening? Who is the killer? I do not know. And our main character, if I recall correctly, is actually a doctor. He is the doctor who shows up at the house to inform them of this news. And honestly, it's such a fun dynamic to see because the doctor is actually a very innocent man. Like his thinking, the way he works and the way he moves, he's just a very innocent doctor. And so he goes in to live in this house for some reason, which I do not remember. And so he gets to observe every single person. So obviously in his mind, he's playing detective and being like, oh, was it you, George? Was it you, Sandra? You know, so he's doing that. So it's a lot of POV observing, and the characters really taking the lead in, how they're behaving. And I think it's just, the dynamic is great. It is very different to just a detective trying to find out what is happening. It's more of a show and tell, because once the characters show their actions, only then will we know who the killer is. Does that even make sense? It just is, it's really good. I would read again. It has around 260, 270 pages. Truly you'll be able to do that. The Housemaid? This was the Housemaid of its time. You will flip the pages like that, my friend. And also, this was one of Agatha Christie's favorite books. It is written behind, so if you miss her, poor old Agatha, read it. There's some romance, some weird stuff going on in the family. Everyone is basically a suspect, really. So if you don't want to know, or if you think you can guess what happens in this book, you won't be able to. So if you want to read a book like that, so those were my top 5 crime book recommendations. I solely and truly believe you should be reading these. I have read, if not all, most of these books twice, and I definitely want to read all of them again. And trust me, I've been reading crime for over 10 years. That is a long time. I'm getting old. For a very long time, and these are some of the books that I still remember. I may not remember every detail, but I remember the vibe. I remember how I felt, and honestly, I felt good, which is why they're here. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, because I give book recommendations, and I think they're pretty good. Make sure to follow me on all my social media platforms if you want to stay tuned, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!